Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Leandro Garcia, Chief Financial Officer for Brownsville PUB. We do have three firms presenting a little bit of information about their firms today. We have Estrada Hinojosa, Larry Jordan, and Jorge Garza representing Estrada Hinojosa. We'll have First Southwest, Raul Villaseñor, Chris Vela, and then from Coastal Securities, Jorge Rodriguez and Tim Kelly. And the order that was selected by the Secretary was Estrada Hinojosa will go first, First Southwest second, and Coastal Securities third. And we've asked the two that aren't presenting to remain outside, just in all fairness.
Okay, thanks.
I've also informed them they have 15 minutes just so we can keep track of time, so we can stay or finish before 4:45 or 5 o'clock. 10 minutes for presentation, maybe 5 minutes for questions and answers.
My name is Larry Jordan with Estrada Hinojosa. I'm a managing director there. I've been there about 11 years. Prior to that, I was actually at First Southwest Company, where I was also managing director. I was one of three guys there that led the public finance department. And since being at Estrada Hinojosa for the last 11 years, I was pleased to serve as a financial advisor to the PUB here in the last few years. I'm joined tonight by Jorge Garza, who's got about a 25-year career in our business. He previously served with Citibank, where he was one of the underwriters on the PUB restructuring. So he's very familiar with PUB, and he's just joined Estrada Hinojosa in the last 3 or 4 months, and we're glad he's here. He was going to take about 5 minutes and talk about our company, and then I was going to take about 5 minutes and talk about our past association with PUB and some of the things that are coming up.
Good afternoon. My name is Jorge Garza. I'm a managing director at Estrada Hinojosa, and I'm glad to be back here at the Public Utilities Board. I've been involved with the Public Utilities Board since 1983, when we were doing underwritings and restructurings, getting ready for the initial acquisition of Oakley Union, so I'm really grateful to be back. And then I was involved in 2005 for the restructuring of the covenants and ordinances and operations of the utility board. If you could look at page 2, Estrada Hinojosa was founded in 1990. Small firm, really, with Bob Estrada and Noe Hinojosa and Adrian Galvan, and then shortly after Larry joined. And if I ask you to turn to page 3, you'll see that the firm has grown now to almost 35 people. We are pretty deep in our talent, and a lot of experience in the public finance, public-private areas of financing for governmental entities. The next page, you'll see how we're going to organize ourselves for the service provided to the Public Utilities Board. On page 4, Larry Jordan is going to be the lead banker. Larry just talked to you. I'll be the follow-up resource banker with Bob Estrada and Adrian Galvan, who is our quantitative analyst. Adrian's been involved in running numbers at Estrada Hinojosa for like 12 years or something, a real veteran. Nicole Roberts and Ross Mooring will be the additional staff. Our firm has grown in page 5. As you can see, we have offices in Houston with our headquarters in Dallas, San Antonio, and also in California and Florida offices. So we are, not just a Texas regional, but also from East Coast to West Coast. We're very much involved in other states besides these 3 states, Texas, California, and Florida. We're involved in financings in Illinois and Indiana and several other states in addition to that. Page 6 gives you our history in volume and number of transactions. Estrada Hinojosa, as an underwriter and as a financial advisor, was involved last year in 200 transactions with a par amount of approximately $16 billion. We call financial advisory our bread and butter, but we do have a desk of underwriters, 3 underwriters who have all come from major firms to be with us, and we do underwriting in addition to that. In the next page, which is page 7, you'll see our rankings in the advisory business in the state of Texas. On the left-hand box, a chart there, you'll see that Estrada Hinojosa, with a volume of $4.7 billion, was the number 3 financial advisory firm in the state of Texas for the 12 months ending December 31 last year. And under underwritings, with about $5.8 billion in underwritings, we were ranked number 11 in the nation, so we're very, very proud of that. Page 8, which is where I'll close. The firm brings the experience of individuals, experience like I've had on the national perspective. I was the regional manager for Citigroup in Dallas, and I covered all the southwestern accounts. I've been involved in public power. I've been involved in asset securitizations. I've been involved in all the utilities across the board, and have been also been involved as an underwriter in the transportation sector. In addition to that, you get the experience of Larry Jordan, who's had a depth of governmental experience and experience with the PUB, and I think it would be good for me now to ask Larry to come up and give you our experience here in Cameron County, at the City of Brownsville, and also here at the Utilities Board. Thank you.
Our Cameron County experience is listed. I'm not going to go through it, but it is in our book. Both Bob Estrada and Noe Hinojosa are natives of Brownsville. They've got family here. I mean, this is really our home. We've done a lot of work here, and are proud of that and very appreciative of the opportunities that Brownsville has given our company to grow. We had served as a financial advisor to the city for a number of years. We would be involved in that role in reviewing the financings that PUB brought to the city, because the city has to approve the sale of the bonds. And at the time, in about 2004, 2005, the decision was made that really we should have the same advisor at the city and at the PUB. And I think that was a good decision. I'll tell you why in a minute. When we came over, there was some issues at the city concerned with the transfer. The transfer was complicated. It was hard to predict. It came 6 months after the end of the fiscal year, and it was paid very late in the flow of funds. From the PUB standpoint, PUB was basically living, if you were an individual, be living paycheck to paycheck. There was always money floating around the PUB building, but there was never enough, and it really would clean out so quickly that there was no liquidity. So every time PUB had a need to borrow money, they'd have to rush over to the city and say, we need to borrow money, and the city would say, what's the rush? And there was just a lot of confusion and really some ill will. So when we were engaged, we said, well, we've got some long-term issues here to deal with, and we need to really get things straight between the city and PUB, because they're on the same team. You know, General Motors doesn't fight with Pontiac or Cadillac. They all get along. They find a way to get along. Just about that time, there was an opportunity to purchase the second piece of Oakland Union. And so we had to run to the city and borrow a bunch of money. We said, well, now, all those things that we had to resolve in the long term, we really need to resolve right away. So we had a lot of meetings between the city and the PUB to put down all the issues and say, how do we get this thing right? We developed about an 8 or 9 page memorandum of understanding that was a product of a work group that was made up of the city and PUB. And then we would individually brief the city council members and the PUB board members and anybody that needed to know about it so that they were comfortable with where things were going. We did a comprehensive restructuring that's described on page 12, where we walked into a situation. I think this is it was concerning to us at the time. Again, the city used to get paid last, and PUB had about 2/3 of its debt in a variable rate mode. So what that means is, you know, it's likely that PUB would pay its bills and pay its bonds, but if there was trouble, it might be trouble with the city transfer, and that was a real sticking point. So one of the things we did in the restructuring was we made the city transfer much more easy to understand, much more predictable. It's paid on a more frequent basis, and it's elevated in the flow of funds. We did a number of things as far as modernizing the ordinance, fixing much of the floating rate debt, smoothing out all of the debt service requirements. And one thing that I think was critical, we provided liquidity to the system. We said, you know, you got to pay your bills and pay your bonds. You got to pay the city transfer. You also need to have rainy day fund. You need to have money in case there's an operations problem. You need to have money in case there's a debt service problem. You need to have money in case you have a project come up. And so there was a real deliberate effort to improve the system's liquidity, and I think personally that was the most important thing that we did for the system. Our competitors at the time were writing articles on the Brownsville blog saying, oh my gosh, this is going to cost PUB its bond ratings. In fact, when the restructuring was undertaken, all three of the agencies upgraded all of PUB's debt at all lien levels. So you were able to get higher bond ratings, which I think turns into lower interest cost. At the time that there was a change made in the advisory business, we were looking to do a refunding to fix out the debt that was borrowed for Oakland Union. We were looking at pursuing a refunding at Southmost. We were working on a desal project. We've had quite a bit of involvement with the Water Development Board, and you know, various other things. So anyway, we're running on our record. We're really familiar with the system. You know, I'm somebody, I've been doing this for 20 years. I think I've done a lot of good work for a lot of good clients, but quite honestly, I think the best work I ever did was here for you, and I'd like to do it again. So we're glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions? How long have you been with Worldwood PUB?
Since about 2004.
And with the city of Brownsville?
Oh gosh, since about 1993 probably.
In the port? 93?
97, 98 maybe.
And others, yeah, it's right there, others.
Yeah. Cameron County, the school district, several of the cities.
Gentlemen, anything?
Okay, thanks.
Representing First Southwest, Raul Villaseñor and Chris Vela.
Thank you, Leandro. Chairman of the board, my name is Raul Villaseñor with First Southwest Company, and with me this afternoon is Mr. Chris Vela. Chris runs our McAllen office, so he's just up the road. We wanted to, if we could, very quickly take you through a presentation we prepared for this afternoon and tell you a little bit about First Southwest on the one hand, but then secondly and more importantly, relate to you the experience we've had with the Brownsville PUB board. And I'm going to skip through the information about the firm because we don't think that that's as important as talking about the Brownsville PUB. But we're the largest financial advisory firm in the state of Texas. We've got extensive amount of experience in all kinds of financings. But as I indicated at the outset, I did want to spend a few minutes talking about the specific experience we have with the Brownsville PUB. We have actually participated in excess of $426 million worth of financings for the Brownsville PUB board, going all the way back from 1997 through and including 2002. As you can see there, the various transactions that we completed for the board were obviously very beneficial to the ratepayers of the city of Brownsville, including the two transactions, the swap agreements that we completed after the 01 transaction that produced a borrowing rate to the Brownsville PUB ratepayers of 2.712%. And then we did a second swap agreement after the 2002 transactions that produced a borrowing rate for the ratepayers of 2.576%. Obviously, those projects were in furtherance of the continuing expansion and improvements to the system, but additionally, we participated with the staff in the acquisition of 105 megawatts of power at the Hidalgo power plant, and part of those financings were in conjunction with that project. We have underwriting capabilities, as most firms presenting here this afternoon, so we bring the advantage of a broker-dealer to the table for this particular engagement. The important thing on this page is that we're a very regulated industry. Both Chris and I have licenses to do what we do because we are regulated by the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, in addition to being regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board. There's other advantages, obviously, that come with a broker-dealer, and principally of which are the market resources that we can bring to bear to any engagements. We have both fixed-rate and variable-rate desks, and that was evident by the 2 swap agreements we entered into back in 01 and 02, and they would be available to the board for future projects. Obviously, prior to any bond sales, we would sit down with the board and staff and ensure that the financings were well structured in the same way that financings we've done in the past have been structured. As you might expect, there are a number of utility issues, both on the electric and the water and the wastewater side, that are sort of challenges to boards such as yours. As you know, the Texas electric industry has been changing since 2001, and the big issue going forward is going to be power generation. Who's generating the power? Who are you buying it from? Or are you continuing to acquire generation assets to maintain your low-cost structure? The problem on the other side is the investor-owned utilities aren't well rated or well regarded, and so it really is going to be up to the private sector doing independent standalone projects or municipally owned utilities such as BPUB to make up that difference in the shortfall that a lot of people have identified in terms of power generation. And of course, being a well-rated utility as BPUB is, you need to ensure that you've got adequate short-term and long-term power requirements. If you're long-term, we believe that utilities need to own power generation. It's important to your cost structure, but there's huge costs associated with that. So we see entities such as BPUB participating in partnership with other project developers in the same way that we bought that piece of the Hidalgo power plant. I see those kinds of needs and those kinds of opportunities to be able to meet your power generation needs. Additionally, you have at the Silas Ray power plant the ability to be able to continue to expand your generation capacity there. But you're going to need some sort of evaluation process, some sort of response, and we believe that we have the capability to do that for you. The other issue that's been at the forefront for most utilities, electric utilities in Texas, is, again, deregulation. The unique thing about Brownsville PUB, unlike other municipal utilities that we provide financial advisory services to, is you folks already compete on a day-to-day basis with AEP and Magic Valley. You all, more than probably any other municipal utility in the state of Texas, understand competition, and we believe that the utility is well positioned to continue to compete on a more formal basis. Back in 2001, all of the financings that were done at that time were focused around giving the board, the BPUB board, the opportunity, if it so desired, to opt in to electric deregulation. We thought that was a very real possibility for you folks because you're already competing on a day-to-day basis and winning a lot of those accounts that you compete for and that you strive to provide low-cost power to. That's going to be the name of the game going forward, is how does the electric deregulation, how does that fit into your growth plans, and how do you finance that? I'd like to at this point call Chris Vela up. He's going to talk to you a little bit about water and wastewater issues.
Thank you very much. Again, for the record, my name is Chris Vela with First Southwest. I head up the McAllen office. and have for quite some time, since 1996. I'd like to start it off by basically saying that all firms can sell bonds. I don't think that any firm here today would be in the business if they couldn't sell bonds. Some have greater volume that results in more market presence and awareness, and that distinguishes them in the market. However, the real challenge for utility systems is the building of a consensus within the community to fund the needed capital improvements, including expanded treatment capacity on both the water and the sewer side. Of course, everybody's aware of the current housing economic situation and what's happening there, and what impact that has on new account creation and the slow depletion of current the treatment capacity is something that remains to be seen. An interesting dilemma that I have observed in working with cities is the understanding of the relationship between the need for treatment capacity and economic growth. Economic growth obviously cannot occur without treatment capacity. But the real question that we have with South Texas cities is who should pay for the additional capacity. This understanding obviously is very important in the development of any successful capital improvement program. Understanding your utility system and its needs is fundamental and requires extensive education and lead time. Your staff and consultants must work together to assist the board in understanding your mandated, first of all, statutory legal requirements as a utility provider, your technical and financial considerations, and lastly, the political ramifications towards the development of your CIP. Development of a consensus involves developing a working coalition between the community, the board, and the city commission based on different funding alternatives for CIP. And that's always been something that we've stressed, and that is that needs are needs, but they also should be presented as alternatives with different impacts. Ideally, these alternatives should include a combination of federal, state, and local financial contributions. Identifying assistance from such agencies as EPA, NatBank, Texas Water Development Board, as well as local resources, usually results in lower than market interest rates. A lot of things are changing at the national level. Agencies like EPA could all of a sudden have additional monies that could become grants, as well as NatBank, because NatBank gets its funding from EPA, and other areas, contributions from Mexico and the United States. Lower interest borrowing costs makes your CIP go further and lessens the financial impact to the community. All of these issues we at First Southwest assist our clients with, besides selling bonds. An example is the recent $72 million CIP capital improvements program that we developed for the city of FAR. What First Southwest brings to the table is the planning of financial resources, ongoing hands-on relationship with your board staff, building a working consensus with your community leaders and elected officials for eventual implementation of your capital needs for your system. We cannot guarantee similar results as in FAR, but what we can guarantee is our presence and our hard work to assist you in achieving the best possible funding alternatives for BPUB ratepayers. First Southwest is honored to have had an opportunity to present our credentials to BPUB Board of Directors, and First Southwest will be honored at once again being selected as financial advisor to BPUB. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. In closing, again, we'd certainly love to once again be working for the BPUB board. We think we did a lot of good projects with the board and staff and the city. All of the financings that you saw up there with respect to our experience were done in conjunction with the city and their financial advisor. And in closing, I'd like to simply say that we provide an independent voice for you folks. We do not do any business with the city of Brownsville, and we will act on your behalf. Financial advisors are fiduciaries, and you can be assured that we would take that fiduciary responsibility to the board and your ratepayers very, very seriously. Thank you very much.
Questions, gentlemen? Okay. Thank you. Can we wait like a minute or two? Only three. How you doing? Robert Garza. Robert Garza. Hey. Chairman stepped out. Yeah. It said a minute, so I don't know, I really meant a minute or.
We're not eating into our time.
No.
But if you take all of your time, you may be sorry.
That's true.
Sometimes. Around the edge. See that? Get a chainsaw. Put insert it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and start then. My name is Jorge Rodriguez. I'm a managing director with Coastal Securities, and with me is Mr. Tim Kelly. He's also a managing director in our San Antonio office. On page 2 of the flip book, we're a regional firm which is owned by partners all located in the state of Texas. We function in San Antonio, Houston, Austin, and we're opening offices right now in El Paso. We have over 95 employees all in the fixed income area of securities, and our practice is primarily aimed at Texas. Among the major clients that we serve, and these are clients that both Mr. Kelly and I service individually, are the City of San Antonio, the City of Houston Combined Utility System, the Texas Public Finance Authority, and the Sam Rayburn Municipal Power Agency. Our representation has traditionally been committed to, we really view ourselves as fiduciary agents to issuers. We act on their behalf and solely on their behalf. We possess the highest level of technical expertise in terms of quantitative and trading skills, and we think that the level of professionalism in the individuals that would be assigned are among the highest in the state. We operate at the highest level of integrity, and we operate under a concept of full disclosure. We do that throughout the state, and we would assure you that that is how we would conduct ourselves here. If we were to be engaged by the utility board, I would be the account manager, assisted primarily with Mr. Kelly. We would have additional quantitative resources in Ms. Jody Seeloff, Mr. Bob Collins, Miriam Willoughby, and Julie Peterson, and the services are our desk for pricing considerations when bonds are actually sold. One thing that we pride ourselves on is just being really candid with clients. We tell it like it is, whether the client thinks they want to hear it or not. We tell them what the issues are. We tell them what the concerns are. We give them the benefit of our best advice, plain and simple. We lay it out there. We're willing to to tackle difficult issues, whether it's an attorney that we don't necessarily agree with their interpretation on. We'll go to bat to try and get the best transaction done for the issuer in order to make sure that you as the appointed officials, the elected officials, have all of the information that you need in order to make a decision. We also are committed to spending multiple hours with our clients in order to run as many models, have as many discussions as are necessary to get the things done. Together, Mr. Kelly and I bring over 50 years of experience in public finance. You would have the direct assignment of the both of us to this account, and you would be assured you'd have senior bankers operating with you. The list of transactions Mr. Kelly's going to go through very quickly. One thing to be aware is these aren't transactions that others in our firm have done. Our firm has done plenty of other transactions. These are transactions that Mr. Kelly and I have structured.
Good afternoon. As Jorge said, that there are several pages here, lists of transactions that he and I have personally worked on. And I'm not going to go through each one individually, but I probably will try to highlight a few that we think are particularly relevant. We have sort of done a review of your outstanding debt, your lien structure. We've noticed the type of debt you issue, the term. We've noticed that you go to the Water Development Board, and those are all things we're very familiar with. As Jorge said, we represent the City of Houston's combined utility system, for one, which is pretty comparable. For them, and on this first page here, which is page 8, you can see that at the very first line is a $250 million forward starting swap. It's a transaction somewhat similar to some of the swaps that you have entered into here, and we're very familiar with those. The fourth transaction on that page, the $181 million loan, is a Water Development Board loan that we did for that client through the Texas Water Development Board. And at the very bottom of that page, you can see a $3.1 billion restructuring where the City of Houston had not had a rate increase in many, many years and was having difficulty accommodating new debt. And in 2004, we completely restructured their outstanding debt, and the transaction was over $3 billion, and it included just about every financing technique you could use in today's tax-exempt public finance marketplace. And we were the firm who ran all the numbers and did all the modeling on that transaction. On the second page, or on page 9 of this section, you can see many more water and sewer transactions, utility transactions for our clients, specifically the City of Houston. And on the bottom of that page, there's a $700 million commercial paper program, which we set up for them, secured the liquidity, and they are still using today to fund their construction. There are a lot more transactions in this book. What we were attempting to do is to show you that we have the knowledge and the skills and the experience that we think this board would look for in financial advisors. There are other issues and issues with your debt that we've looked at in the variable rate bonds that you have outstanding, and in today's marketplace, liquidity, which you need for those variable rate demand bonds, is scarce because of all the subprime turmoil in the marketplace, and it is probably twice as expensive as it used to be. And that we notice that those facilities will be up soon, and that will be something this board will have to address, and we're currently addressing that with several of our clients right now. The Water Development Board loans with the City of Houston, we have made application, and because EPA funds part of those, there's been a restriction where you can only go 20 years. But last week, we finally got approval from EPA to go 30 years. So that will be an opportunity for this board and your future Water Development Board loans to extend the term of your debt and still receive the interest rate subsidy that they provide. I think instead of going through more of these transactions. I'm going to turn it back over to Jorge.
I'd like to bring your attention to page 13, and we operate as the financial advisors to the City of San Antonio, and the reason I bring you to page 13 is in that capacity, we're called upon to review certain transactions that both the water utility and the CPS, the electric and gas utility of the city undertake. They ask us to come in, review those. Very similarly, the City of San Antonio receives about a 14% subsidy from CPS. Very similar arrangement to what you have situated with the City of Brownsville. In these three transactions, a $300 million City of San Antonio water and sewer refunding, we were asked to go in, review all of the structures, monitor the transaction, monitor the pricing on behalf of the city, and cooperating between the city and the utility to ensure that the relationship is preserved, to ensure that the two entities are cooperating in what they're attempting to accomplish. As well, just recently we were involved in an $800 million City of San Antonio prepaid gas contract. Again, we were functioning for the city, reviewing the transaction from CPS. The same on the previous $770 million City of San Antonio sale leaseback transaction, which both of these have been unique transactions. There are additional transactions we've undertaken with Texas Public Finance Authority, Sam Rayburn Municipal Water for your review, as well as Harris County Flood Control. Our goals are to develop with you financial plans where we identify the goals, we identify all the parameters that affect that plan, and we identify for you all of the available tools. I can assure you that every tool that's going to be at your disposal, we have dealt with personally for transactions for our other clients. We're familiar with swaps, variable rate paper, long paper, short paper, you name it. Mr. Kelly and I have had the pleasure and the opportunity to see the gamut of public finance over our collective 50 years of public financial management experience. And we'd love the opportunity to bring that to you and work with you in this capacity. When this all comes about on page 21, we identify all the tools, including the ones you're using, commercial paper, variable rate bonds, fixed rate, cash defeasance, synthetic structures, swap transactions, and look forward to bringing all of those to your disposal and working with you should we be selected. That having been said, I know that's fast, but we had 15 minutes and hopefully we could get it all in there. We'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Gentlemen, this your first foray, shall we say, City of Brownsville or Cameron County? Or?
Actually, I had been involved with the utility many, many years ago, about 12, 13 years ago. We had underwritten some bonds for you. In another life at Masterson Moreland, we were involved in several transactions for you guys. So most recently, yes, it is, in the last 8 to 10 years.
Okay, thank you, Coastal Security.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just as a recap, I do want to mention we do have a related agenda item number 12 requesting guidance from the board on how to proceed with selection of an FA, a financial advisor. We do have some transactions that will require some assistance in the next 3 to 6 months. Commercial paper conversion to long-term debt. Our commercial paper program, some of the liquidity facilities, letter of credits expire in July, so we need to get started now working with bond counsel. I do need to start working on a credit agency update based on the latest fiscal year results, as well as start planning for some plant financing, whether it's water, wastewater, or electric generation. So we are in need of a financial advisor and would like to have some type of direction this evening. Any questions?
Do we have costs to the PUB? Are they comparable? Are there any distinction?
At this time, I did not ask for cost, but I would make it subject to some negotiation. We do have some historical costs that San Jose has charges as a retainer fee, and what First Southwest was proposing 2-3 months ago. If you all want those numbers, but tonight that wasn't part of the presentation.
All right.
We'll probably gauge it around the same area, plus or minus 10,000 from what we were previously paying.
can you hear me all right? As John said, this is a result of a report, a management study by R.W. Beck, which was published in July '06. Some of this material has been distributed to previous boards, I believe, but certainly I recommend that we proceed to seriously address this material. What Beck did is they evaluated the existing BPUB structure and made recommendations for governance and management model for BPUB. The first statement of policy sets out a vision. Every company I'm familiar with, my own law firm, we do have a vision. And we look at it every year at least, annually, to see what are we doing. The second part of this statement of policy for governance is how you implement the vision. We have a general description of the board from the city charter. We list the general activities of the board. We talk about the responsibilities of the chairman and vice chairman, and they provide the leadership to the board. We also discuss the board relations with the general manager and emphasize that the manager should keep the board informed of all important matters that come up, and give them the material that they need to make intelligent and effective decisions for BPUB. And also, finally, in that first document, we talk about the relations with the city of Brownsville. This is a subject very dear to my heart. All of you were appointed by the city commission. You're the ones who have the stroke or the influence with the city commission. The manager can go up there time and time again and make his report. But it's essential that the board members be involved in that relationship with the city commission and help pave the way to achieve the objectives that management has recommended. The second one is called planning policy. You already have a strategic plan, but this policy would ensure that it stays up to date, it's reviewed annually and carefully, and that because, you know, you've got to have a roadmap. You can't drive to Los Angeles here in your car, probably without a roadmap. And so any business needs a planning policy. The management document or management policy states the form of organizational structure within the board is the decision of the CEO and general manager. The board is in an oversight role there. The manager's job is to get the job done that you give him. But when it comes down to how to structure that job so he can do it, that should be a decision of the manager. Another important part of this is that there should be a periodic evaluation of the manager. The manager should know where he stands with the board, at least annually, in some type of formal evaluation. And that way he can hear the criticisms, he can hear issues that the board thinks are important that are probably not being addressed. And that annual review is a very important thing. And then finally, we have the criteria to evaluate the manager. Of course, this again comes from the R.W. Beck report. I don't know that it includes everything you'd want to consider, but at any rate, these would be, you need a criteria. How does the manager know how he's going to be evaluated? Well, if he has a written criteria, he knows what you expect of him and what performance he should give you. The last one from the R.W. Beck report is the specific activities of the board. You may not realize you have all these responsibilities, and that there's plenty to do, and in the role of being the arm of the city commission to manage and control this system for the benefit of all the ratepayers and the citizens. I have in bold, you'll see some of these, but they're all really important. The last document is a draft resolution called Resolution Adopting Amended Rules. Now, this document was not part of the R.W. Beck report. In the past, from time to time, my firm has been asked to revise these, to update them, put them in compliance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Public Records Act, and also to make any recommendations that we felt would be beneficial to the board. But this is your house, and these are your rules. So how you see fit to implement your obligations or run your procedures is up to you. There are changes from the old rules. For example, the old rule said you met at 7 p.m. Well, we meet at 5 p.m. now. So that was something we thought we ought to change. Also, you hold your meetings in the afternoon and evening, not just at night. The old one said night. Now, on the next one, the change is that the chairman or any two members can request an agenda item. This was changed to be a majority of the board, and I think Mr. Rodriguez is going to talk about that in a minute. It's possibly not working. But this was normally what's done in most boards of which I'm familiar with. Then the recess, if you turn to page 2 at the top, it says the board at any meeting under Rules 2 and 3 may recess or adjourn. It used to say to a time. We put a date because you might want to recess to another day. The whole section, Rule 4, closed meetings, is new. That's under the Texas Open Meeting Act. It's just really a legal recitation of what you have to do in those meetings. On the agenda, the old agenda said the general manager and CEO would do the agenda. I've added in coordination with the chairman. And also, again, the old one said that any two members may add additional items. I had a majority of the board members. And again, I think Mr. Rodriguez is going to talk about that. Beg pardon? Sure. Any questions you have, I'll stop.
My thinking about that is that we ought to reduce it to 3 members, and my reasoning for that is that if an agenda item is put on there at the request of the majority of the board, you're not supposed to have a majority of the board decide things outside the board, and if you all of a sudden have something put on the agenda because 4 of you got together, it could be interpreted as a violation of the Open Meetings Act. If you have 3, if you lower it to 3, then you don't have that issue, and that was just my recommendation. I think 3 would be a preferable number over 2, and it would be and definitely I would recommend against a majority of the board, because that could open us up for possible issues with that.
How about one with the chairman? One put their agenda item, and it's kind of up to the chairman, and that one board member reaches out to that chairman and say, hey, here's the reason why he wants it on the agenda. And the chairman okays it.
These are your rules. So you all can decide what you want. If that's what you want, that's fine.
We're going to have action discuss on this in the meeting.
Right.
I do think that no matter what, if there are two people that have different view, or we're going to need a small board of 50 cities and more, voices should always be heard, whether it's lower or not, or whatever, what they consider. And maybe that's something that we want to discuss a little more detail when it comes to
Otherwise, you will be, I think, stifling, shall we say, stifling,
No, I mean, there's no problem.
dissenting voices, and you don't want to do that,
These are just our recommendations, and that's why.
I'll go back.
Yeah, I'd made some notations here that I needed to talk to you all about also.
Don't take it wrong, but that recommendation is too overpowering. That's just like, hey, we're the majority, here we go, and boom. I mean, let the little voices be heard. I'm a little voice now.
Your house, your rules.
Okay.
Your house and your rules, okay. On the top of page 3, we just added that whatever you do will not be in conflict with the Texas Open Meetings Act. And Article 7 on page 3, right now, under the President setup, you have a Secretary-Treasurer, addition to these other offices, and under this proposal, the board would designate a member to be the Secretary-Treasurer. You can elect, if you want to go back and elect them, that's fine, to be sure that you have 4 officers. It doesn't really matter. But
3 officers.
well, the old one said you had a chairman and a vice chairman and a secretary and a treasurer.
The secretary and treasurer is one person or 2?
2. So I felt that ought to be combined because frankly, the treasurer is, he's just treasurer shouldn't have to do anything except, monitor the other people.
I think one thought was that, as the treasurer, not the CFO, the treasurer. Treasurer to me, and I don't know if this is beyond the scope of the should be, but the treasurer is the person who the board chairs the finance committee, ensures that the process of the budget adheres to work with the CFO, and kind of like the board is going to just, in addition to that, for audit purposes, because we're talking about, as we have talked about, possibly increasing, formalizing audit procedures, and that I would like that treasurer and that auditor to be that point person and discuss that with the board. So I think traditionally maybe the treasurer did not have a lot idea.
That's right.
Checks, and they're not going to send it straightforward work. Then I think that the treasurer may have some responsibilities for audit purposes.
Okay.
That's
Okay. And any rate, we've also provided for the recording of the minutes by someone other than a board member, except in the closed meeting, which is a change there. Then the rest of it, I believe, is pretty much what you've got. Yes. Okay. A or B? I'm sorry, and what number, what letter? Okay. In other words, that no motion shall be debated or put to a vote unless it's seconded. That's out of the old one, but that's true. I mean, if you're going to make a motion, you should have a second before it's discussed.
for our understanding of this, because I think that what this, if I interpret this correctly, what this says and what we actually do are two different things.
Yes, sometimes that's happened, yes, that there's been debate before a second has been made to a motion.
Okay, so if an item is, let's suppose, I mean, two situations, so let's suppose that I just want to put discussion on. We get approval by so many directors that abide by these rules. You put something on the agenda for discussion purposes only, a non-action item. So it gets to the agenda, it says item number 4 for discussion, Brownsville, San County, whatever. Before that item is debated, we need a first and a second.
Right.
And then we can have a discussion, and then the item is actually voted upon.
No, I think the intent was you could discuss it. Would you have a motion if you were just going to discuss it? I don't think so.
That's just it, then we couldn't have a discussion. According to these rules, we couldn't have any discussion.
No, I
think you
I don't
need to
interpret it that way.
If you have an item up for discussion only, that is not going to entail any action, then, you can discuss it without having to have a motion. If it's already on the agenda, then you can discuss it without having to have a motion. Item number 4, discussion whether we should give money to the Boys Club of Brownsville. All right? When you come up to item number 4, the chairman says we're item number 4, discussion. Do I hear any discussion? Now, if the item reads discussion and action, then I would think that the interpretation would be, before you discuss it, you should have a motion and a second.
But
We don't do that today, and I think when I see all the public entities, the way they do that is that this is the item that is read by someone, and then we have a discussion and debate, and then there is a first and a second and a vote.
But if that's what you want to do.
it almost sounds like you. Dang, I guess I did have it on.
Okay, is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, what I'm saying is that you don't, if you have a discussion item only, you don't have to have a motion, period. Well, then you could discuss it if you wanted to, but you could not vote on a motion, and it
Without a
just depends
second.
on how you want it. You know, do you want to have the debate after a motion is made, or do you want to have debate before a motion is made?
Let me be a little bit of a devil's advocate here. Somebody makes a motion and everybody else sees a need for it. So how can you expound on it or have a discussion on it until it's, maybe to persuade somebody else that, hey, that's not a bad idea. You're almost kind of telling everybody, go discuss it before you come into the meeting, so they understand why you need that motion. And we don't want to do that. That's the whole idea of Open Meetings Act. You don't discuss it out of the meeting. You want to discuss it here in front of the public and in front of the cameras. So it almost sounds like you need to say, look, I have a motion, and this is why I think, and somebody says, you know what, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll second it now.
Judge, it says debated, what it really means, and this is in our current regs. I mean, it's also in Robert's Rules of Order. And the intent, and the wording can be changed on this if there is confusion, but the intent would be that, say you do have a discussion, and then someone makes a motion to approve it.
Okay.
And then someone makes a second. It says you can't put it to a vote or debate it till then. So say someone doesn't agree with you on your motion.
Okay, but if I guess, Mr. Davidson, if you have a discussion, I mean, discussions are kind of debates, right? I mean,
Well, it can be. They certainly can be.
So what's preventing us from having, let's say, there's an action item, I move to change that we all wear red in our uniforms, okay? That's a discussion and action. Okay, so the chair reads the action item, as it is on the agenda. Can we have a discussion? I like red, no, I like blue, no, I like green. Okay, we're ready. Who's going to make the motion? I move that we go for red, and then there's a second for red, and then it's over?
Now,
Then we just have a debate before the motions were made.
Let's take a typical situation here. Mr. Brusiak has an agenda item, okay, and he presents it, okay, and then y'all ask him questions and all that sort of thing about it. And after you've discussed it, well, then someone makes a motion, right?
Right.
To either deny it or to approve it. And what we're trying to get at here, though, is once that's done, there's got to be a second before you move on.
I'm sorry?
It's got to be a second to that motion.
Or you can actually debate other board members and present your case?
Well, the motion would be debated if someone disagreed with it.
With that particular
Yeah,
motion?
it wasn't intended to prevent discussion.
Okay.
But it can be changed if you're concerned about that.
No.
Change any way you want to.
I just want clarification.
But the motion is once the motion is made, all right, this doesn't mean that you can't discuss it before, but once somebody makes the motion, before you continue debating that motion, you have to have a second.
Understand. Okay.
You could have discussion before if that's what you want. But once somebody decides, well, I don't want to have any more debate, I move, then you can't continue debating unless there's a second.
Then you can continue.
But you can debate after the second.
Yes, absolutely. You don't have to go motion, second, and vote. You go motion, second, debate.
Right. So the way it would work is you would read the motion, you would discuss and ask questions about the motion. You would have a first, a second, and if there was debate, then you would have the debate,
If there's a continuing.
and then there would be a call for a vote,
Yes.
which is sounds very confusing.
But after
doesn't
the
it?
second motion and there's debate, is the debate going to be allowed, or will the chairman the chairman has the right to just flash that out and say, all those in favor?
Well, if you...
No, I mean,
It's up to him, right?
You
well,
could,
Not really?
if you'd be more comfortable, you could just simply say that, no motion for a vote shall be, debated without a second.
Okay.
Motion for a vote. We could
Understand.
change that one wording,
Okay.
and I think that, Judge, would that do it for you or not?
I'm amenable to anything.
Okay, you had a second question, I believe.
No, that makes sense to me.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, I have some
Oh, all right.
problems earlier on here, so we can go back
We'll
there.
have a lawyers' conference?
Well, no. Under Rule 2, special and emergency meetings, Rule 1 talks about the regular meeting, and it specifically mentions where they will be held. Rule 2 does not. Rule 2 does not talk about special meetings or location of emergency meetings. And I'd like something, maybe a Section D there, any special emergency meeting shall be held at, and say, this location right here.
Where a meeting held.
Where they're held, except or unless this is a joint meeting with the city commission, where if we're having it over there, we can have a meeting over there, or unless there's exigent circumstances. We got a flood in Brownsville, and our PUB building is flooded out, we can't have it here. But otherwise, this is the location, people will know where to have the meeting.
all meetings shall be held at this building unless
Administration building.
otherwise.
Yeah, well, unless there's special circumstances, or unless we're having a joint meeting with city commission, city's chambers.
We can change that.
Or add it or something like that. Okay. Go to rule number 6, quorum. I don't like the way it reads, to be honest with you, because it says the majority of the board member present at a meeting shall constitute a quorum. That's not correct.
I have that, I have to delete.
Present at a
at
meeting.
I just.
Yeah, a majority of the board
members
shall constitute a quorum. Okay.
So I was gonna recommend that we delete the words present at a meeting.
Okay.
I agree.
It's done, gone.
Let's see, then of course, we talked about the agenda, how many people. I think, I don't necessarily know whether or not the chairman should have special power to put items on the agenda of his own volition. Maybe just say, we were talking about 2 board members. Maybe just any 2 board members, chairman or otherwise, 2 board members. But that, I guess that's for us to discuss. But that was kind of my thought on that matter, too. I guess that's really all I have at this time.
Is there any rule, I don't have my package here, I didn't get copies on that particular one, but
Should be
is there anything about majorities walking out on a meeting and disrupting a quorum? Is there anything there pertaining to that? Did anybody do any recommendations on that for the council? Is there any recommendations on that? Because, with all respect to my colleagues up here, I would say no. Any recommendations from you two?
Terry had a, did you? Yeah.
Do you have one?
No, I was just going to suggest that we might want to put a provision in there that discusses, and the board would need to decide, and I forgive my voice. The board would need to decide whether or not, once a quorum is established, whether or not it maintains in effect if the quorum is destroyed at some point for purposes of conducting business. My understanding from governmental agencies is that a quorum can be destroyed, and there would be no business that could be conducted once the quorum.
Never heard of the killer bees in Texas legislature?
Have
you
That's where it comes
heard
from.
about the one about if it's too hot in the kitchen, get out, things like that, little things like that. I'm just, I'm kidding with everybody, trying to be funny.
I have a question. I have a question on the rules of debate, Mr. Davidson.
All right.
Okay, that's on page 4.
Okay. Got it. This is out of Robert's rules. If you, like you're sitting there and you have something you wanted to bring up, you address the chairman and say, I have a matter I need to speak on. That's the purpose of it. And, rather than everybody talking at once or some individual member deciding he just wants to start talking about it in the middle of a meeting. That was the purpose of it.
No, John, I think he's talking
B,
about
Baker?
item C.
Oh, C, I'm sorry, I was on B. All right, no wonder. This is, again, out of Robert's Rules of Order, but it's identical to what's in the current regulations. This one is.
Okay, so it says, it shall be the order for a member voting on the prevailing side. So if the motion passes, and as a member I voted to pass the item, okay, I'm on the prevailing side.
Right.
To move, because it doesn't say reconsideration or before reconsideration?
Well, what this was designed to take care of, suppose you change your mind. And if you change your mind and you voted for a motion that passed, well, then you would be entitled to ask for reconsideration. If you did not vote for it, you would not be entitled.
That is allowed.
At that meeting.
Yeah, at that meeting.
Or if it's on the
Well-
agenda at the next meeting.
Yeah, that's true, at the next meeting too.
Suppose the first meeting happened, I was in the prevailing party, you voted for it, there was some misunderstanding, miscommunication. At the end of the meeting, I reflected on it, said, no, that wasn't right. Now, in order for it to be considered, we have the next meeting, the second, but I'll refer to it as the second meeting, it has to be on the agenda in order for it to be.
Right.
Right, it would.
Now, let's suppose that it's not on the agenda, I'm out of town, I'm sick, whatever. So now we go to the third meeting. We can address the third meeting.
You're right. It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't. Unless you change it, that's the way it reads.
So if you're not, if you're not on the prevailing side and you're not in agreement with that, you can't have it reconsidered.
Right.
The only ones that can have it reconsidered are whoever was on the prevailing side. So once it's voted on, agreed upon, then you can only do it reconsidered at that meeting or the following meeting.
That's right.
As an agenda item. And to be placed as an agenda item, then does it need consensus from all the members that voted on it, or just that you were on the prevailing side?
It would depend on what rule you adopt here. Whether you decide just to leave it with the manager and the chairman, or whether you provide that 2 members could put it on the agenda, or whether you provide that 3 members could put it on the agenda.
And the agenda item would be reconsideration.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Very good, thank you very much.
It'll be an action item to consider in open session.
Okay, let's, call the meeting open.
We'll call the meeting to order. We
Call
have,
the meeting to order. January 14th, 5 o'clock, 5:15. This meeting's called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
We're actually going into executive session.
Can we do this one first, John? Or we're going to...
We should go into executive.
Okay, we're going to executive.
Public comment, Ron?
No.
Go ahead, recognize him.
We're back on the record.
Brian Miller, Weather Service, what's Weather Service?
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I called this meeting to order, and at this time, we're going to take a 3 to 5 minute break. Okay? Thank you. On the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Today's invocation: Dear Lord, bless the PUB and all the employees, and guide the new officials and the new chairman and vice chairman and secretary of the PUB for the year 2008. Amen.
Yeah.
Okay. there was no action taken in executive session. And at this time, it's the chairman's report, and I'm going to make it a little short right now. But I'm very proud of some accomplishments that were done in 2007. In 2006, the customers paid about 11 cents per kilowatt hour compared to the 9.5 cents per kilowatt hour here in 2007, past 2007. Some of the reasons for the lower bills are the lower fuel and purchased energy charge due to the additional purchase of the Oakley Union Power Plant. Another reason is the reduction of the electric customer service charge by $3 to $5.53 from $5.53 to $2.52 in October 2007. The lowering of the late penalty charge from 10 to 5%. And this past year, the PUB board initiated the PUB Strategic and Business Planning Project. Also, in 2007, the PUB was awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting by the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada for Brownsville Public Utility Board's comprehensive annual financial report. And I just want to personally say I'll never forget being chairman of PUB, and it's been an extreme honor, and I'll never forget it because my daughter Tiffany was born during the same year, so that's something I'm always going to remember, and being chairman. And I want to thank my colleagues here on the board for giving me the opportunity to serve for this past year, and all of you folks in the crowd and in the city. Thank you very much. We now go to item 3, election of the board officers. Mr. Guerra and Mr. Vasquez.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to propose a slate, shall we say, a slate of officers for this coming year, where Mr. Villarreal would be the chairman. I would be the vice chair, and Mr. Vasquez would be the secretary treasurer. This time we have just one office, secretary treasurer, so secretary treasurer for the coming year.
No, actually, we're operating under the old rules, and
There's
there's a secretary and a treasurer.
Oh, there is a president, the secretary treasurer. Then I guess, Mr. Vasquez is secretary and Mr. Farias is treasurer for this coming year. Then that's my motion.
Secretary is who?
Secretary, Mr. Vasquez, and Mr. Farias for the treasurer. Then.
All right.
Okay, so you made the full slate.
Yes.
Yeah.
You move.
That's my motion. Yes.
Okay, that's a motion. There's a motion on the floor, and I can second it. I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Motion passes. One sustained. Welcome, Mayor. And also, I'd like to recognize Mr. Brian Miller from the PubCap. Thank you, sir, for standing up. Mr. Brian Miller serves on PubCap, and he works with the Brownsville Weather Service. Thank you for coming to the meeting, sir.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for your service this past year, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. I guess at this time we have a General Manager's report. Mr. Brusiak?
Just a couple things, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I've been in discussion with the Navigation District, Port of Brownsville, of possibly looking at taking over the water and wastewater facilities at the port. I'd like their board okay to discussions with the general manager over there to do that. That's something we've looked at in the past, and it may give us an opportunity to take over those facilities and possibly work with them on infrastructure for development at the port. And if that's okay with the board, I'll proceed. But I think that's something that there's some real opportunities there, I think, for both sides, and would like to maybe bring back a proposal to the board where we maybe do a joint assessment of the system and inventory to see what's out there and see about taking that over. But they are interested in having us take over those facilities out there. They have some water tanks, water plants, sewer plants, things like that. So We do have a holiday next Monday, Martin Luther King's birthday. Mayor, we're working on a binational meeting on the 29th with Mexico here on the Weir project. I know the mayor's been really heavily involved with trying to pull this project together. We're trying to have it here in Brownsville with IBWC, CELA, CNA. Not officially that but I think we're on for the 29th here, so appreciate, Mayor, all your help you've been doing to facilitate that. Last thing I have is financial report, Leander.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Leandro Garcia, Chief Financial Officer for Brownsville PUB. I'll be doing a quick overview of our financial performance through November 30th, 2007. This first chart captures revenue summary information. Through the month of November, net operating revenues were $25,421,580. Adding other revenues, interest from investments, and other non-operating income, brings our total gross revenues to $26,947,360 through November, first 2 months of fiscal year 2008. When we back out fuel, wholesale expenses for our off-system sales and southmost requirements, we get down to $16,791,667 as our adjusted gross revenues, which is the calculation that the city transfers based on for the amounts. On the expense side, on the requirement summary side, we had total expenses of $6,209,411 for November. Adding debt service of $3.8 million brings our total requirements to $10,031,892. Our balance available to surplus is $6.1 million here, of which $1 million will be transferred to the COB, net of COB usage, and $5 million will be retained by PUB. That $5 million is continuing to fund our various operating reserve and other reserve requirements to the tune of $3.7 million, leaving a balance of $1.3 of surplus to our improvement fund. These next graphs compare our actual 2007 results through the same time period to the 2008 budget and 2008 actual. So you can see our net operating revenues were a little under our budgeted 27.7 target through November, a difference of $2.3 million. Our gross revenues, $26.9 million, also under our budget targets of $28.9 million, under by $2 million. But when we adjust after our fuel requirements in southmost, we do see a favorable balance here of $700,000, $16.8 million actual versus $16.1 budget, and versus $16.6 actual prior year, 2007. Fuel and energy costs have been below budgeted amounts, $8.8 million actual, $10.4 million budgeted through November. That's we're under by $1.6 million. We're also under by $1.1 million compared to 2007 actual. Fuel prices have maintained a steady, have been consistent below 7. They have inched up a little bit, but during the first 2 months we did see good favorable prices on natural gas. O&M expenses, actual through November, $5.9 million. That's $1.6 million below our budgeted amount of $7.5 million, and consistent with actual 2007 numbers. Balance available, due to our savings or to our favorable balances in O&M expenses, we have achieved an available balance, surplus balance of $6.1 million, well over the 3.3 target. Transfers out $5.1 million, exceed our 2.4 anticipated amount by $2.7 million, and then the COB cash transfer is pretty much in line with what we anticipated and last year's actual. This graph shows the contribution of the balance to surplus from electric, water, and sewer. most of the contributions coming from electric. On the consumption side, we experienced a decrease from 114 kWh, 114 million down to 101, but we are still a little ahead of 07 numbers, 6,642,051, ahead of cumulative 2007 numbers. That's a 3.2% favorable variance there. We did see an increase in water consumption from October to November, going from 475 to 512, 512,000 gallons. We're ahead of 2007 numbers by 16,294 gallons. So this is per 1,000 gallons. That is a 1.7% favorable variance there. Same thing with wastewater. You'll see the increase there, 368,000 versus 322 for the same time period in 2007. On the CIP side, our total CIP program called for spending at 53 million, 53.6. We have achieved 7.1 million combined expenditure and encumbered. We did issue some contracts during the first few months, so that 7.1 million reflects encumbered monies of 4.2 million. We're at the rate of 13.3% compared to the overall budget this time. That is the presentation, our financial performance through November. Any questions?
John, anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Item number 5, consideration and approval to amend contract with NRS Consulting Engineers for the seawater desalination pilot plant study. Mr. Garcia.
We're going to be passing out an updated summary. We did tweak or fine-tune the summary that went with your packet. This item requests for amending the contract with NRS by an amount of $966,000. We had initially funded the desalination pilot plant study from a combined grant and cash participation amount to the tune of $1.8 million. Based on some actual results and equipment failures and the introduction of different process treatments, we are experiencing additional costs in order to obtain the necessary data that's needed for good conclusions and moving forward to assessing the results for a major plant. We are requesting additional time for the accumulation of this data and with additional funding. Mr. Bill Norris and some of his staff are here to do further updates on the plan itself.
I'd also like to recognize Jorge Arroyo with the Texas Water Development Board is here tonight. I know Jorge will say a few words as well after Bill's finished, but ask Bill to come up and go shoot a short overview of where we are and what's caused the overruns. Want to do first? Okay, Jorge.
And also Steve Rodriguez is here from Austin also.
Hey, Steve.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Members of the board, my name is Jorge Arroyo. I'm with the Texas Water Development Board. I'm an engineer in the Office of Planning. In April 2002, Governor Rick Perry asked the Texas Water Development Board to identify potential sites for seawater desalination in the state. I know there is a couple of board members that are new, and I'm just going to give you a very brief background on the project. So the governor asked my board to identify sites where seawater desalination could be developed in the state. Brownsville was one of 3 sites that were identified as those with the highest potential in the state for developing seawater desalination in a large scale for a demonstration project. Since then, we have completed feasibility studies with your staff and with your consultants. And more recently, Brownsville was selected as the one that had the greatest potential, the greatest opportunity for developing seawater desalination. And for that reason, our board gave funding to the PUB to initiate a pilot plant study for developing a large-scale facility. Suffice to say that Brownsville is, without a doubt, at the forefront of this initiative on behalf of the state, and we are most grateful for the support that we have seeing from this board for this project. I am here as a resource. I'll be glad to take any questions now or after Mr. Norris gives his presentation. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks.
Any questions for the gentleman?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Bill Norris with NRS Consulting Engineers. Just going to give you a brief project update. This is the seawater desalination project, which Jorge mentioned is really it's been a joint effort between PUB, NRS, and Texas Water Development Board, as well as the Port of Brownsville in furnishing the site of which the facility's on. A little background, Jorge mentioned that this is one of 3 sites that were selected for feasibility study that was funded by the Water Development Board, and this was the only one that was really selected to continue on with pilot plant testing, once again funded by the PUB and the Water Development Board. We began construction in 2006, September, and completed construction of the facility in February 2007. Now, basically, that's the initial facility, but we continue to add and change things around to best benefit the outcome of the project. And so it's really a dynamic project. It's not just something that sits there and just collects data. We try various things that ultimately will give us the best product to design the ultimate facility. We have, it was just a pretty quick construction. We did all this in-house, no general contractor, so it was quite a task, especially breaking into the ship channel and taking the water that we have. Basically, this kind of, if you can look at the one that shows seawater desalination project, that shows kind of a schematic that's shown up on the board. This is really the site layout. The item number 6 is a conventional pretreatment system. We take the water in from item 1, where the ship channel comes in, and it goes to 4 different processes. 3 ultrafiltration or microfiltration, which is kind of the state-of-the-art process, and then conventional treatment, just like you'd find at your existing water treatment facilities. And each of those is tested, and then we test that through a reverse osmosis system. So you basically get a very varied water quality coming from the ship channel that's highly salty to a bottle quality drinking water standard. And so it's quite a harsh environment. It starts from the intake, where we have to be concerned about microorganisms, the fish, the turbidities from the ships coming by. As you can see, this shrimp boat didn't make a lot of impact, but when we were out there this afternoon, Jorge witnessed a barge going by, so you see quite a variance when the water comes through into the facility because of the ship traffic, the wind, and other environmental conditions that we have. It's a continuous monitoring of the situation, changes and fine-tuning of the system on a continuous basis, on a 24/7 basis. The harsh environment, not only the water coming in, but as you can see, this is a conventional treatment plant. The middle facility is a stainless steel rust, and so we really have to be concerned with environmental conditions within the plant. This is a highly publicized project, and we have lots of visitors to the site, including crabs. So we have to take care of not only the environment, but take care of the visitors to the site. We also had a rattlesnake, I think, visit us inside one of the facilities. Don't let that hinder you on coming to visit the site, though. And this is just the RO system. Part of the proceeds of the additional cost is actually to purchase this equipment inside this building to allow the PUB to not only test future membranes and seawater facilities, but also to enhance the southmost desal facility, testing new products. The operation itself is quite extensive. We continue to fine-tune and change. We have a lot of flexibility within the system. From loading membranes, we have 2 separate sets of membranes in each of the facilities right now. We've tested one prior to that, And so we're testing all the latest state-of-the-art membrane technologies. This is just kind of a sample. It's kind of busy. This is just 1 month's worth of data for one of the pretreatment facilities. We see those blue spikes. That shows the spikes in water quality during the month as we have rainfall, wind, various conditions within the treatment system. The treatment quality is really there's so many data points it looks like just a big black speck in there. So this is just 1 month out of probably 14 months worth of data that we'll be analyzing. What really makes this important from a legislative standpoint is we need to be finished before the legislative session starts, well before, and the Water Development Board actually prepares their request for funds to the state. Can't overemphasize PUB's significant contribution to desal, first starting with the southmost plant and now with the seawater facility. It's not only an alternative to Brownsville, but it's an alternative to the state of Texas. And so that's the reason why we need the state of Texas participation in a demonstration project. Seawater is more expensive than the conventional treatment methods as well as brackish water, but this is a demonstration project of which we expect the state to participate in to assist Brownsville into helping the rest of the state of Texas and Brownsville themselves, as well as the valley, and coming up with an alternative source that is basically unlimited. And one of the reasons for the expanded scope is our original scope of work included 2 treatment systems. One is conventional, and the other is one ultrafiltration system. And if we'd chosen those 2 that were the leading candidates, those are the 2 that have not worked successfully. So fortunately, we added 2 others, or the ones that have really come to the top to be probably the leaders in who we would probably pick to bid on the ultimate facility. Having additional facilities increased our protocol, which actually is taking it to the Texas Water Commission, Texas Environmental Commission, and so there's a whole lot more regulation requirements for that. It just compounded the operation and maintenance of the facility as well as the data acquisition and analysis. We still have to deal with an extreme environment, and ultimately your investment in this, the reason you invest this is ultimately larger cost savings. So if you're spending $150 million and you can save $30 million by having competition amongst suppliers, then that's the investment that you're making in the project. Just want to talk about each of the facilities. The microfilter PAL is a particular type of microfiltration. It's basically performed the best. It was the least favored in the beginning because it had the least amount of experience, but is the only one that has gone through all the testing, and now it's going through a second phase of testing to give us a lot better additional parameters for design. And so fortunately, and they furnished this facility for free because we said we don't have any more money to pay for any more equipment. So okay, we'll do it for free. And they're the ones that have performed far better than any of the rest of them. Conventional, this is a mechanically and operationally intensive unit to take care of the conditions that we have from the variation in water quality. It was unable to consistently meet requirements, so we decommissioned this in December. It just took a person every day constantly fine-tuning that. When a ship would come by, we'd have to change the chemical feed. Just was not feasible to do. The xenon ultrafiltration was probably the leader, had more experience than any other facility, but it still has not made the grade yet. And it's currently in a stage 1 operation, which has to go through 3 stages to meet TCEQ standards. And it's not really the filtration system itself, it's just their internal mechanical failures that we've had within their system. And so they are kind of on their last leg on being considered future consideration for this particular project. The other one, the NORIT, they actually invested in a larger facility brought in November. And so they've made a great investment in this, and they're in stage 3 testing. should be finished with that in the next week. And so we'll be able to, from that point on, kind of work with different flow rates to fine-tune that particular facility. So we have two really good units, one that we discontinue and the other one will have to step up to make the grade. The continued funding is part of that. About a third of that is purchase of RO equipment for research and development by PUB. Allows the PUB later on to let the operators learn the system, take ownership in the system, and continue operation until such time that you have a full facility, or probably even beyond the full facility, because you will continue to do some testing with this particular facility. Additional 6-month operation and maintenance. We've actually started up in February, so we're looking at finishing the testing probably in May or June. It gives us an increased chance of higher efficiencies on the ultimate design, and should add value to competition with other suppliers. If you have a sole source supplier, then you're subject to a much higher cost. And gives us an increased knowledge of the harsh conditions that and the effects on the ultimate design of the system. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I think we've gotten PUB has gotten an award for this particular project with the Water Reuse Federation National Award in its endeavors to do this. It's pretty heralded around the country as well as the world about being one of the leaders and in trying different things for this facility. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Any chance of getting any additional grants to make up the difference?
We have the money man here. I would suggest that we request some additional funds to offset some of the money that's being furnished, or supplement the money that's being furnished by the PUB. The Water Development Board has always been receptive to us, meaning the PUB, in they're partners in this, and they're always willing to help in some form or fashion, whether it be money or others, but I'll let maybe if Jorge would like to address that.
This month, the Texas Water Development Board begins the process of developing the request for additional funds from the legislature, the legislative appropriations request process. The last session, we got $800 million for funding the State Water Plan recommendations, water infrastructure fund, associated with all the water management strategies that were recommended in the State Water Plan. That is a big achievement. It's an indication of the seriousness that the legislature is placing on making sure that we have funds to implement water infrastructure. This project, the full-scale plant, is part of that package. It's a project that was recommended in the regional water plan for Region M. So in that sense, it is eligible for the funding that is being that was granted to the state for water infrastructure. That package of fund is known as the Water Infrastructure Fund, and we have been at staff level. We have been in conversations with your staff to present an application under that program to conduct the design and the permitting aspects of the project. Really, the biggest money is going to be for the full-scale project. Your consultants have estimated the last time that we estimated the cost of this project was going to be around $150 million. And in the last session, my board endorsed the request from the PUB for legislative allocations for this project. We have another shot at presenting a recommendation with more accurate numbers and a better defined project this time around. So this action that you're being asked to consider today is yet one more indication of the commitment and the seriousness of Brownsville towards pursuing this strategy. I would encourage that an application be filed for try and, if not match, at least grant some funds as part of this effort. But really, the biggest money is going to be on the large-scale project. And we will be developing that recommendation throughout the remaining part of the year. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, welcome to Brownsville, welcome to PUB, and I've had the personal satisfaction of meeting with you and others on these projects. I think it's safe to say that PUB has administered this project. It will work with the state, and we want the governors to know that we are committed to this project. Right now, we're going towards a drought mode. We haven't had rain. The reservoir levels are down. So PUB is trying to be proactive, not reactive to these situations. And we look forward to finding creative ways to make this a reality. Because realistically, we know the state's not going to give a plan to put it off. There has to be a joint partnership, and that's why we have bond advisors and board there and management to guide us to help us make this happen. The good thing is that the governor mixed this board of the six Brownsville out of all the sites do this type of program, and we appreciate it and we value it. And we're going to do what we can as a board to
I make a motion, or do you want to discuss a little bit more?
Question. Does anybody, I have a question, but does anybody have a question before me?
Okay, before you know, Bill, would you please let us know how many gallons you're producing with these pilot programs?
The pilot itself doesn't produce a measurable quantity. I mean, it's a measurable quantity, but each of the RO units produce 18 gallons per minute, and so it takes about a little over twice that much to produce the water, because the water going in, it's about a 45% recovery. So every 10 gallons in, you get 4.5 gallons out, and that's because of the higher salt content.
This project also has the potential to be a financial project in the future. If you recall, there was some dispute with the water with Mexico, and if we get to the point where there is no water, it could be attractive to the Mexico building this plant.
Mr. Norris, I had a question. On the, I guess the added cost has to come with the closing of the conventional method and going to other filtration systems. When can we find out which filtration system is actually the most productive and efficient? Are we almost there, or are we still going to be in research and development for a while?
I believe we already know what's going to be what system's going to be most cost effective. We've already eliminated a conventional type treatment. The two facilities, the pretreatment systems, the NORIT and the PAL units, we would probably consider them as pre-qualified to bid on a project. And so that gives us the ability to have competition amongst those, at least those two, and we hope to get more than that. But as far as the pilot facilities, we know that those two will work. And we know that there's some refinement in the ultimate design of the intake. You know, if we can smooth the water out as far as the quality of the water coming into the facility to not be so varied, which we have some ideas to do that, then we can also lower the cost of the pretreatment units, because they have to be designed to take care of such large fluctuations. If we can lower that, that makes those units smaller. So really, that's really kind of in the fine detail of the ultimate design. And there's still some additional information that we'll have to do later on, but this gets us to where we have really finalized at least 2 units. We know the RO is going to work. If the pretreatment system works, then the RO is not a new science, but the UF ultrafiltration, microfiltration is relatively new in this market, where they have been using the conventional type treatment. But there's not too many places in the world that have this type of water quality coming in, the variation in the ship channel, as opposed to an ocean intake where it's a little cleaner, and not as, and when I say cleaner, turbidity, same amount of salt, but then you have the additional when ships come by and the wind stirs up the silt and everything, we have to take care of that also. And so we feel like we have a very good handle on that. We've come a long way in the last 12 months to get where we are today. We still have a little ways to go, but I think the investment in this will save a lot of dollars in the long run.
My question, Mr. Norris, is that, we approved a $500,000, $500,000 allocation for this project. Roughly, we were going to invest or fund 30% of the project. The state was going to fund 70%. Now we're going to increase our investment by almost $1 million. My first question is, the $966,000, that's kind of a big hit to hit at one time, but this is a big project, very important to us. How assured are you that we're not going to come back? And I understand we're at the last phases of this, eliminating 2 of the processes. But how assured, or what assurances can you give to us that we're not going to come back with another request for a budget increase on this particular project for the pilot study?
99%.
Okay.
The reason I say that, at the beginning of this project, the scope was pretty much developed to a certain extent for the PUB by the Water Development Board to look at 2 particular units. Hindsight, if we looked at those 2 units that were the most prevalent in the industry, we would have 0 success at this very point. And so, while we're asking for additional money because we added 2 units to it, all that money probably would have been pretty much wasted up to that point. So it's kind of like, now we know what we have, we know what it takes to operate this thing, what the ins and outs, and we're just trying to get an additional 6 months worth of data. It's pretty cut and dry right now. And I would say that if we're, unless something just outside of our total control happens, which I can't foresee, hurricane wipes it out, or some disaster happens that is not in anybody's crystal ball. I can't see an additional increase in this, and if it is, then I'm going to eat it.
Okay. The second thing is that I know that Mr. Arroyo talked about requests for funding on the permanent project. On this additional request, are we going to submit an application for maybe to share those expenses 70-30 as well? And that will be in process?
That's what I would recommend.
Okay, and when would that application be submitted, and when could we reasonably have an answer as whether or not the state board would share in those expenses? Within 6 months, 9 months, a year, or how does that happen?
I think from our perspective, as far as we can't get it unless we apply for it.
Right.
And Jorge and I talked a little bit about what they would like to see, and they would like to see some additional funds be put toward looking at the financial aspect of it, from funding your FA, whoever that is, to look at what rate impact, what is the threshold of what the PUB can tolerate, knowing that they have to expand their water treatment facilities in some form or fashion, whether it's a surface water plant, the brackish water plant, or the seawater plant. Okay, if you go toward, let's say, okay, we need to expand the brackish water plant for X dollars per thousand. If it costs 50% more to go to the seawater, then what impact? If you're willing to pay the impact to go for brackish, then we would go ask the state, we need that difference because this is a demonstration project. We know it costs more, so there's a gap funding that we would request from the Texas Water Development Board or the federal legislature to gap that, because this is demonstration. And so that's, I don't know if that answers.
Well, maybe it does, and I just don't understand, but are you saying that, obviously, this is the very beginnings of $150 million project. This is, this $3 million is a drop in the bucket for something that's very critical to us. So are you saying, though, that of the new advance, the new request that you're asking for approval today, $966,000, that we're really, the application that we're going to submit for additional funding to the Texas Water Board is not is not really to be reimbursed for those expenses, but other expenses that we're going to have in the future?
Possibly.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
or a combination thereof.
combination of both. So there will be an application for some type of reimbursement, but it seems to me, and I don't want to be reading into anything, that we have a higher chance of success of being reimbursed for other expenditures that are going to happen to the future as opposed to this cost overrun that we had in the pilot study.
Possibly. And
Okay.
I'd like to try for some of this overrun.
Okay. I think that we need to try for some of this overrun, and we are very committed because, we are not a very, very wealthy community in terms of dollars, and we are spending now $1.4 million on this very important project. So, we do need the help.
That's the way we would structure it, and I know that the Water Development Board can't pay for equipment purchase, so they can't reimburse that portion of it for sure. And, but that benefits in the long run.
Any other questions? Mr. Sanchez, I believe you would.
Just it's an important project. You read up on it, it looks like the water supply. What is the reservoirs right now? What percentage, do you know?
I haven't looked at them in the last couple of weeks, but they're...
I have the data. I got the data. 60%?
They're a little. I think they're higher than that.
A little higher? It's an extremely important project, and yes, there's a little overrun there, but water's the number one resource we all need in the valley. I'm sure the rest of the valley would rally behind us, being the forefront here on the sea. And I make, Mr. Chairman, a motion to approve to amend contract with NRS Consulting Engineers for the seawater desalination pilot plant study.
First and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Item number 6, consideration and approval of a request by the Brownsville Beautification Committee to fund $20,000 for a landscape renovation project adjacent to the Gateway Bridge. Mr. Brusiak?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, this is kind of a two-part request by the Beautification Committee. Mr. Joe Rubio sent a letter. First item was a $20,000 contribution from PUB for a landscape renovation project next to the Gateway Bridge, and item 7 is $37,621.50 for placing an overhead electric line underground along Ringgold Street to save some palm trees. So I broke it up, but it's the same request in the letter, two different items. So and Mr. Rubio's here to address the board.
Chairman, members of the board. My name is Jolie Rubio. I'm the chairman of the Brownsville Beautification Committee. And just to give you a little background on the first item, this Memory Park was originally done by PUB as a demonstration xeriscape park a few years ago, and it's seen a lot of use. Subsequently, the city sold the Jacob Brown Auditorium and this little triangle to the university, and they've been maintaining it ever since. But because it's been used so often, everybody walking over from Matamoros goes right through there. People are picked up there, people standing, waiting, students go through there. The taxi stand is right there adjacent to this area, and it's so much, needs to be renovated. It needs to be brought up to standards. And we also anticipate, if we have enough funds, to put a welcome to the United States sign there. This is the entrance to Brownsville from Matamoros. This is one of our first entrance projects that we anticipate to do in the very interests to the city. We have partnered with the university for funding for this project, and we've also got some additional funds from Cameron County. And since you all actually did this to begin with, we, members of my board asked me to come to you all to not leave you out as a partner on this project. So that's why our request is before you now.
Sure. Any questions for Mr. Rubio?
Do you have an itemized
We have an itemized plan. No, I don't have that, but I can provide it to you.
So how much is the total project?
Total project was about $90,000. Well, when we first started out, it was like $70,000. And meeting with the university and making some changes and wanting a larger sign and the lighting and everything else like that, we anticipated maybe $90,000. But just to cover ourselves, we haven't gone to bid for it yet, but we said it's between 90 and 100,000. University's given us 35, Brownsville Beautification's 35, we have 10 from the county. So just to make sure that we have enough funds to do the project the way it's designed, we're asking for $20,000 from PUB,
So,
if possible.
how much of our money is going to beautify the university property, and how much of it is going to beautify the city easement?
The easement is all around that property. We're, I'd say 45, 55, something like that. But we've asked the question of the legal department if, about expending funds on university property. Beautification Committee partners with Texas Department of Transportation on highway projects. That property does not belong to the city either. So we have precedents of where we actually, the beautification actually spends money on property that does not belong to the city. So that wasn't too much of a concern. But, yeah, we own the property all the way around the park, the right-of-way.
But I think we need a little itemized counting here of how it's going to stand.
I can come back with you with those figures, no problem.
Oh, that's crazy. So we know exactly what we're putting money into, property.
Okay, there's a motion to table. Second.
Would that also include maybe the next item
Well,
here?
let's take the second item, the next item separately.
I second the motion to table.
There's been a motion to table this item. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Next item, consideration approval of a request by the Brownsville Beautification Committee, in-kind contribution.
Was that motion to table to the next meeting for them to present the
Whenever
document?
he's ready to come back.
Sure.
with a presentation, so we know exactly.
Itemized list. Contribution of $37,621.50 for the placing of an overhead electric line along Ringgold Street underground to save the palm trees. Mr. Brusiak?
That one, we did do an estimate, which we provided in there under, I think it's under 6, on what our cost would be to put that overhead line
There's
underground.
no other way.
Well, it's underground. Overhead down.
If I may.
That we did break down so we have the cost, I mean, it's itemized.
Okay, there's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Sanchez. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
1 out of 2 ain't bad.
Not bad, and I'll bring you the information you're always looking for.
All right, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay, item number 8, discussion and action on adoption of governance documents including planning policy, management policy, governance policy, specified board activities, and amended rules and regulations. Mr. Brusiak?
Mr. Chairman, we did have and members of the board, a workshop on these items. These are not new items. They were brought to the board in '06. I think one other time, earlier this year, new rules for the board, governance, management duties, evaluation of general manager. We did discuss those in the workshop, and there's no urgency on those, but I would like to keep them on the agenda until they're approved, because I do think we need to as part of the R.W. Beck organizational assessment, these are things they recommended. I'm trying to follow along and get these things done. So, well, you missed it, but we...
No, I'll abstain because I'm not.
On those items that we discussed on the resolution at the workshop, I think maybe it needs to come back as a cleaned item, so other than the ones we really mentioned, but possibly, does the board have an idea as to on the agenda items, how many members to put an item on the agenda?
I think we had talked, I guess the recommendation was, if I recall correctly, Counselor, you had put in here a majority, and there was discussion on whether or not it would require 2 members or the alternative being 3 members to put an item on the agenda.
Yeah, and it's, if you all want us to bring it back with 2, as you all indicated you all might want, just tell us and we'll...
The chairman has the option to do it by himself. Right?
Well, that's what we want to actually do away with that.
Yeah,
Just make it 2 members, chairman or no chairman.
Management has the option of doing it himself.
Management can do it, yeah. That's what we will discuss. Let management do it, or 2 members of the board, whether it's chairman or not.
Regardless, I think that gives everybody a pretty good voice on what's on the agenda.
But council's recommendation in the workshop was majority of the board members to put an agenda item, and I thought that was just too overwhelming.
Business and make decisions before you get here. I myself believe, I wasn't here, but I myself believe if you have a chairman chairman's responsible for giving direction to the page. He may have something at the last meeting that's a good day, but
That's right.
at least the discussion, discuss it, we can vote against it, and the chairman should have that authority.
Well, Mayor, and also, we discussed in the workshop that
I mean,
he didn't...
why should we be afraid of anyone bringing an agenda on?
Yeah, exactly.
The thing is that there's items on the agenda that sometimes really shouldn't be on the agenda, so you need to have at least two members, I would think, to get the item on the agenda instead of just anybody's whim, just because I want it, you know.
I agree.
He was gonna, also look in there about when the quorum is busted and a group of members walk out. He didn't discuss that, so if I may, Chairman, can I make a motion to table this until he finishes it up for the next meeting? And add that on, that particular...
There's rules that govern that, you don't need that to be part of the policy, you just rules of law.
Well, I mean, some of the people want it, Mr. Mayor, and so we recommended that, to put in here that if a quorum is busted, you cannot continue with the business. That's happened in the past, several times. That's our recommendation.
I'd make a motion, well, I think
There's a
Sanchez already made a motion to table it
He made a motion to table it. Is there a second on that? Okay, any...
to the next meeting. Let's try and get it done by the next meeting.
Yeah, because there's nothing here in the packet, we just,
Is,
a description out here. So let's
there-
ask us
is-
both
can I ask it-
board members
let-
so we can review.
I emailed it to all the, okay, but I'll get you a hard copy.
let me ask a point of clarification, if I can, on this motion before we vote on it for debate purposes. Okay, does that apply just to the amended rules and regulations, or does it apply to the planning policy, management policy, governance policy, and specified board activities? You're gonna table the whole thing? Is that what your motion is, Mr. Sanchez?
Well, I don't know how you can vote on just part of it. I would imagine you'd have to table the whole agenda item so that he can finish his work on it.
I think.
I'll bring it back, bring the whole thing back. That's
Okay.
fine.
All those in favor for the tabling?
Aye.
Those opposed? Nay. Item number 9, discussion of conflict of interest in Rodriguez, Colvin, Cheney, and Science representing Dannenbaum Engineering. Mr. Sanchez, you place this on the agenda?
Yeah, and you know, just some citizens were calling, just showing their concern for it and asked if I could put it on the agenda. It's nothing personal, Mr. Rodriguez, for me or nothing. Some constituents called and wanted to bring it up, with the fact that, and you've got every right, your firm has every right to represent whoever, but that you're representing the Dannenbaum Engineering out at the port. And, the community, these individuals that called felt that, you know, we as a community as a whole, need to unite and be together in the PUB and the city and the port and the UTV and et cetera, and the mayor and everybody. And then all of a sudden the council of the PUB is representing this firm that has a $21 million situation out there at the Port of Brownsville. I'm just bringing it up, you know.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, point of order. What does that have to do with the PUB business?
Absolutely nothing.
I would move that we table this matter, or...
It's not an action item, it's a discussion item.
Okay. Well, I mean, it shouldn't even be discussed.
Excuse me.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
For any reference, we have no business in getting to the attorney's fees. I mean, he's got a board, it was legal, ethical, according to their standards. That's his business. If a citizen has a complaint, he should file it with his board, not bring it up to you.
Well, you know, that's good. That's why the agenda item's here, and
Okay.
all these views are open, and we're just listening.
Very good. Let's go to item...
May I say just something? If any member of the board has any question at any time, we've never failed to respond to any member of the board. If you need to bring it to the attention of the general manager and he needs to bring it to our attention, you know, we pride ourselves in being professionals, and we'll continue to do so. So if anybody has any question at all at any time, we're ready to answer.
Thank you, Counselor. Item number 10, discussion on an alarming trend of home foreclosures that are affecting the lower and middle class income citizens pertaining to utility rates and fees. Mr. Sanchez.
Is this one gonna be out of order too, Judge Guerra? I'd like to just...
It could very possibly be.
Okay, well,
What's the relationship to PUB business?
Mr. Sanchez.
I
Let
just
the
wanna...
chairman make that decision, Mr. Amada.
Excuse me, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Mr. Sanchez, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Well, 2005, the impact fee issue was brought up. It was voiced correctly to the citizens. There seemed to be a shortfall in the PUB coffers, and a lot of that had to do from research and from discussion on the low impact fees that were established down here. And once again, I'm not here for any special group or special interest. I'm here as an average citizen that was placed on the PUB board, and I'm honored. And I must bring this up before I get stripped of all my power here on the PUB board, possibly in the summer. I'm not going to go on in life without even realizing that I didn't bring this up, and I wanted to bring it up. Now, we talked about it, John, about wording it a certain way, but it didn't get cleaned up. So where are we on the impact fees? We need to be at the right level.
But
and there's been some certain voices
Mr. Sanchez,
that have...
excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I need you to please make a point here because you said alarming trend of home foreclosures.
Well, that's...
If we can still, please stick to that subject.
Well, there's an alarming trend of home foreclosures across the United States.
That's correct, sir.
There's... The majority of the people are in years of my age group that are married with young families. They're getting their houses picked up left and right.
Okay.
We're in Brownsville, Texas.
Shed light to this, the city council just passed a resolution, Tuesday, passing a resolution to let our legislators know of a concern of home foreclosures that are on the rise, to look for ways to maybe bail them out, to extend the loans, or some creative way to avoid a recession, help us avoid a recession or something like that.
Very good.
So we passed a resolution in the city council, and I think it addresses the topic here.
All right,
Thanks, Mayor. And that, it's just discussion.
Yes, sir. Item number 11, discussion and action to rescind the selection of an architectural firm for Energy Control Center project, Miramada.
I missed the meeting before last.
Yes, sir.
Decision was made to rescind the architectural firm that didn't pick the meeting before that, I think it was.
That's right.
And we had a new board meeting, new board members come on after the initial board meeting, and the architectural firm was picked. And yet no presentations were made, a decision was made. I think we're talking about quite a bit of money, millions of dollars here, a project worth millions of dollars. And the new board was not privy to the presentation. I would like the board to be part of this by allowing the architect firm to come and give a presentation, because if we're going to make the decision that affects a project such as important as this, worth millions of dollars, I don't think we should do it without getting all the information and making a sound decision based on what's being presented. So based on that, I would like to invite all the firms to come back to this new board and make those presentations and then decide.
Any further discussion on this item?
I think it just makes sense.
That's item number 11. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, there's a motion to rescind the selection of the architectural and engineering firm for the Energy Control Center project. Is there a second? There is no second. The motion dies for the lack of a second. Item number 12, consideration and approval to execute agreement for financial advisory services. Mr. Garcia.
Yes, the PUB board received presentations from 3 firms earlier today in a workshop. They are very well recognized firms, and at this time we are seeking some guidance on how to proceed with selection of financial advisor. As mentioned earlier, we do have some assistance we need pretty quick with some financial planning and commercial paper rollover to permanent debt.
This is an action item. Is there any discussion No discussion. May I have a motion?
Financial advisor would be? Who you recommend financial advisor would be?
Do you have a recommendation, Mr. Garcia, on the financial advisor?
No, I don't have other than I can work with any of the three. They're very well-recognized firms. They're familiar with PUB. Two of them have provided us excellent financial advisory services in the past, and I'm willing to work with any of them.
And the three firms were, that gave the presentation in the workshop, just in case someone wasn't here before?
They were Estrada Hinojosa.
Mm-hmm.
We had representatives here from Estrada Hinojosa, Larry Jordan, and Jorge Garza. First Southwest, Mr. Raul Villaseñor and Chris Vela, they did have to depart, so they're not here. Okay. And then Coastal Securities, we had Mr. Jorge Rodriguez and Tim Kelly. They are still here.
We have not, there was already came out that we have not had any relationship with Coastal.
That's correct.
Securities
That's correct.
yet.
But they did highlight the extensive experience in the city of Houston.
San Antonio and Houston.
San Antonio, yes.
Okay.
I move that we select or approve Estrada Hinojosa.
There's a first. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay. Motion passes. Item number 13, Mr. Garcia, consideration approval to amend the fiscal year 2008 capital improvement plan budget.
Yes, this item requests your authorization to amend our CIP budget. An earlier action amending the contract with NRS for the desal project called for additional funding of $966,000. We do have two additional items in the consent portion of the agenda that require additional funding. The Villanueva Water Transfer Project, $72,100, and the purchase of two backhoe tractors, $116,000, for a total of $1,154,638. Some of these, the funding for these is coming from prior year surplus monies.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Item number 14, consideration approval of bid award to the construction of elevated storage tank number 6, booster pump facilities.
Yes, this item requests your authorization to proceed with construction of some booster pump facilities for tank number 6, which will improve the water quality in the tank through more circulation, as well as maintain adequate pressure in the north plant, part of the distribution system. We are proposing to award the contract to Cupco Construction at a bid of $158,000.
Which is tank 6? Which is tank number 6?
Alton Glory.
Alton Glory, okay.
And you only had two bidders, Mr. Garcia?
Yes.
I mean, typically, how many bidders do we receive?
It's a pretty small job.
Pretty small job, $158,000 for them. Is there any questions or discussion?
I make a motion, we adopt the recommendation of staff and hire Cupco for not to exceed $158,000.
First and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Item number 15, consideration and approval of change orders to reimburse the City of Brownsville for utility adjustments regarding the 2004 CIP Contract 3 street paving improvements.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, back in August of 2007, Brownsville PUB directors approved reimbursement for $678,047.35 to the City of Brownsville for utility adjustment and improvement for a construction project for the 2004 CIP Contract number 3. That project has been finalized, and we've had an additional cost of $94,025 for additional conflicts because of utility adjustments, and that will be a total amount of $772,072.35. This cost increase is 5% of the total original contract cost. And the PUB staff recommends approval of change order for Cupco Construction and reimbursement to the City of Brownsville for an increase of $94,025, resulting in a total utility adjustment amount not to exceed of $772,072.35.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Is there a motion?
I make a motion, we adopt the recommendation of the staff.
Second?
I second it.
Just a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Move on to consent agenda items 1 through 9.
Mr. Chairman, with the exception of one, I make the motion to approve 2 through 9. I was not present at the November November 14th, shall extend.
Okay. There is a motion to approve items 2 through 9. Second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
Make a motion to approve item number 1.
We have a first on item number 1, consideration and approval of minutes for November 14th. Is second.
Second.
First and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We have no public comments today.
Okay.
So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for coming to the meeting.
Thank you.